Whoa. That's how I'm gonna start this is whoa. Okay. Just finished watching WandaVision, the whole season. Um I don't know if they're gonna do a season 2, so I really don't want to call this season 1. I want to just call this WandaVision series. Um if they do a season 2, then we'll go from there. But for the time being, we're just gonna call this WandaVision series. Wow. I honestly, with the exception of the the built-in bathroom breaks, which was really cool, it was like watching a movie. I mean, it was straight up like watching a movie, except it was a movie that you had to, it was almost like visit the next chapter, visit the next chapter. In a way, it was kind of, it kind of reminded me of, with it being episodic the way it was almost like the first time I watched Avatar on Blu-ray. I was like, whoa, insert disc 2 to continue the, wow. So, anyhow, y'all know me. I got that Labrador Retriever syndrome going on. But anyhow, the WandaVision. I mean, who'd have thunk? All right, I'm just gonna say, I don't. I'm a child of the '80s. All right, and yes, some of the older shows, i.e., Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, even some Dick Van Dyke, old black and white stuff. I had seen that. Obviously, it was in reruns. I was born in '81. What can I say? But then when you started progressing in further on, it was like, oh, okay, so now we're going to hit, something akin to the Brady Bunch from the 70s. Seen that. Mind you, I wasn't a huge fan of those specific types of sitcoms. I guess if you want to call them sitcoms, we can talk about the TGIF thing that ABC used to run, and I mean old school TGIF that encompassed Full House, Family Matters, Step by Step, and there was what was it? Perfect Strangers was a part of it, I believe, at one time, and then they transitioned from that to Boy Meets World. But anyhow, the high notes on that one would be Full House, and I really got the Step by Step vibe near the culmination of it. It really was kind of a 90s vibe, and it was traditional 90s. But the way they went about it was really cool. I kind of enjoyed the very beginning of it, where it was straight up black and white sitcom. I thought that was pretty cool. Obviously, they didn't give anything away in the first couple episodes as far as major plot points. Obviously, if you had been following the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you knew Vision was dead through Infinity War. It happened. But then it just continuously built the story for Wanda, because this is really just her story. Vision's just kind of there as a catalyst. It doesn't really start coming around until episode 3 or 4, when you find out that Monica Rambeau's character in the show is actually somebody who accidentally got drug into it. Excuse me. So, yes, I will say that with the first couple episodes being very old school in their filming and in their delivery, it was very familiar. It was comfortable. I thought it was like, I'm like, man, because I knew that it would transition from I believe it was the 50s to the 60s to the 70s to the 80s and to the 90s. I knew it was going to transition like that. And I was like, man, if I can make it through the first few episodes, I'll be okay. Because I mean, you're talking about the Scarlet Witch. You're talking about Wanda Maximoff. You know, pretty much. You know, I'm just gonna say it. The most powerful hero we have seen to date. I know there's gonna be people out there to say, "Oh, Captain Marvel's more powerful." Can Captain Marvel make you see things? Don't think so. But with you started getting, and it was more her facial expression that gave it away. It was like Agatha's face, just the way she gave it away. Now, I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to back up on this. Beep, beep, put it in reverse. Remember, your boy XG is not a comic book reader. I do know that the source material exists, so everything I know about comics is either based on cartoons or movies, and now TV shows, apparently. Go figure. So yes, I will say other people probably knew it instantly. As soon as they heard Agatha, they're like, "Oh, snap!" You know, and it's, for me, it's like, okay, this chick, she remind me of that straight up. She chose the perfect character. I'm not skipping to the end on purpose, but she did. She chose the perfect character of the nosy neighbor. Like, if they did a recasting of the TV show Bewitched, Gladys Kravitz would be played by this woman. Just putting that out there. So, yes. With the way the days changed, because I was curious about the timeline myself, and then I started figuring out, you know, once they went outside the projection, I was like, okay, this is only a couple of days. Now, the real kicker is, and they might have mentioned it, but I don't remember them mentioning it. I know it's post Endgame. So the blips happened. Everybody's been brought back, you know, thanks to Hulk snapping for everybody to return. But the thing is, when they showed that, where they didn't show Hulk snap, obviously, it's just they showed the people rematerializing. You know, Monica Rambeau was one of those. She rematerialized sitting in a hospital room in a chair, and then she started running through the hospital, and then people are just rematerializing through the hallway as she's going through. It's like, I know they said that Hulk brought folks back in a safe manner, but bruh, you could have put them boys and girls in like a... You could have made it so they weren't moving. You could have made it so where, hey, we're going to put everybody in this open area. If you were in a tight space, we're going to put... Because could you imagine that? I mean, imagine somebody coming back, materializing, and they're standing in the spot where somebody is presently standing. So, yeah, it was a little bit goofy on that for me, but yes, to see the reverse of the snap and everybody coming back, because we knew it happened, but you really saw it when they showed it with Monica's return, and for everything to go on the way that it did, and then for her, bless her heart. I mean, as soon as I heard the name Monica Rambeau, I'm like, that sounds awful familiar. I'm trying to drag out where it was from, and then I'm like, oh wait, that's Captain Marvel. So we now know that the young girl from Captain Marvel obviously is her proper age in Monica Rambeau now. So we're gonna see where her character goes, because spoilers, there's the end of it that happened, and you know, when she meets the Skrull in the theater at the very end, it's almost like, is she, you know, she's going to be destined for some greatness too, just like Carol Danvers was. Honestly, with the way the story progressed, to the point where they bring in all these other people. Now, if I'm wrong, y'all correct me. I know Thor: The Dark World, people are on multiple sides of that fence. Some people love it. Some people just think it's a skippable movie. I'm one of those where the only skippable film in the entirety of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, The only skippable film to me is Hulk. Nothing against Edward Norton. Edward Norton did an amazing job in Fight Club. I loved it. I love the movie Fight Club, but Edward Norton in Hulk, I couldn't. I mean, there was not enough of a tie-in. Yes, they had Ross there. Okay, big whoop. Banner was with his daughter. But and if you really want to go there, then you've got the post-credit scene with Tony Stark and Thaddeus Ross, or Thunderbolt Ross, excuse me. But okay, fine, whatever. To me, an Iron Man cameo, Tony Stark cameo at the end of Hulk, I could skip that movie. I mean, I don't even own it. So, and I've seen it once, maybe twice. But, so yeah, but this is something to where everything that happened for a reason. It built up, and it did let you know that there's some big things coming. When we reach the point, Vision early on, he starts to figure it out. Like, he's starting to figure it out. I think it was in the first episode they were in color, which I believe was episode 4. He starts to figure out that something's not right. He's like, it's not right. And then he proceeds to just be okay with it. And then when the twins were born, that episode is when Vision's finally like ready to just go to town. Like, that's it. Let's have it. Let's have at it. Let's figure this out. Why? And then it almost, when Vision ends up getting through the barrier and he ends up basically disintegrating again. It wasn't the disintegrating like from the snap. It was more him just his body being torn apart. When that happened, it was almost heartbreaking for me. I mean, obviously Wanda fixed it, but still, it was one of those things where I'm sitting there like, wow. But one of the scientists they brought in was from Thor: The Dark World, if I'm not mistaken. Her name's slipping me off the moment, but anyhow. So that being said, yes, from that aspect, having that deep Thor: The Dark World dive, pulling it from that far back, yeah, I mean, Darcy was her name. I'm almost certain Darcy was Jane Foster's friend in Thor: The Dark World. So it's nice that they brought her in, because, and if she's not the same one, then, hey, all right, cool, my bad. But there was a real familiarity there with her voice and everything. The Vision ended up having the ability to basically touch people's head and restore them to who they were. And then when he does this to one of his coworkers, the whole thing that starts the process is Vision's trying to understand what the company he works for does. And all they can say is, we do reports. We do these expense reports. That's all we do. And there's not given a why. What reason do we do these? Who are we billing these to? Where are we getting the money from? None of that. So that's what kind of was the catalyst toward Vision being clued in, so to speak. He was cluing himself in. I will say there were definitely some funny moments that happened in the first episode when Wanda's in the kitchen and she's trying to, Scarlet Witch, got all the power in the world, can't even figure out how to cook a meal on the spot. Like, yeah. I'm sorry, if that would have been Samantha from Bewitched, that deal would have been done. That meal would have, she'd have just went in the kitchen. All right, we're good. I got this covered. She would have been like, yeah, we're about ready to eat. We're good. And she'd have walked in the kitchen. Poof, the appetizers would have been ready. So, but for the way they did it, it was funny, and it had some comical moments where Wanda had a full chicken ready to be cooked, or ready to roll, and then she did one spell and the chicken went one way, and then she did another spell and it went back to eggs, and I'm like, wow. So it was all funny in that aspect. There was definitely, in the first couple episodes, there was definitely some humor. It was almost the first couple episodes really gave me that Bewitched vibe, like, there, instead of it being like Darren trying to keep the secret because Samantha's a witch, it was they're both trying to keep each other's secret because Vision can fly, he can do all these other things, and plus he's a computer. So for that to be the way it was very interesting to see how they did that and how that actually played through. But then as Agatha becomes more of a part of the story is when you start to sense that something's amiss with her. Something's just not setting right with you. I don't know what it is. Can't put my finger on it quite yet. But yeah, something is there. When you start looking at the later episodes, then you start to see where Monica Rambeau, she's in there. This is her first or second time of being in there. And they got her in these bell bottoms and this straight up 70s outfit with this massive afro. And she's there. She helps Wanda deliver the babies. So she knows who Wanda is. And then she makes a comment in reference to Pietro, her brother, being killed by Ultron. It wasn't really Ultron that killed him. I mean, he was killed as a byproduct of Ultron, but still. And then when she says that, Wanda then sits there and is like, hey, what did you say? And then Wanda's like, get out my house, and just wraps her up in her energy and just flings her through multiple walls, and then finally the force field or the energy shield, whatever you want to call it, the barrier, the hex as it was referred to in the show. So she flings her through the wall of that, and everybody shows up, and then they're all like, okay, so what's going on? And then she's like, Wanda. It's all Wanda, And then the story starts lending itself further. You see, it's a little bit more of a back and forth between the inside of what's going on in the town versus the sword presence. And I'm sorry, when they move further on to episode 9 and they start showing what happened, and I will say this, the pacing of all this was just, it was cool. I mean, the pacing was good. Like, the first 2 episodes were like 30 minutes each, and then the third episode, it increased by like 3 or 5 minutes, and it kind of stayed around, it stayed around 30 to 40 minutes per episode with no commercials, mind you. It was just straight through. I mean, yeah, okay, there were commercials, but they were commercials. Like, they were built into the show, and they were done, and it wasn't for real products. That's the fun part. It was for mess from the Marvel Universe. So it was kind of interesting. A matter of fact, the one that sticks out the most to me is there was like a weird brand paper towel commercial, and I thought I watched it and I'm like, is this commercial? Am I seeing? So I hit pause real fast and I'm like, oh, it's part of the episode. Okay, that's funny. So that was the first one. The rest of them I just kind of I just flew through the rest of them. Like, yeah, whatever. I hit the fast forward button once and just rolled through the commercial because it's like, yeah, whatever. I mean, granted, I know there was Easter eggs there. I don't nitpick shows that hard or movies that hard. If I see something that catches my eye that makes me straight up geek out, yes, I'm gonna go for it. I will call it out. But no, I didn't. I kind of just was like I toughed through them. I'm like whatever. But then as we near the end of the series, there's a Halloween party the day before. I must say, Quicksilver showed up from the Fox universe. Evan Peters reprised his role. I liked Evan Peters. I really and truly did like his Quicksilver. I'm not gonna. I not being a comic book reader and having the inclination to read the source material, I will not say which of the two Maximoff men were better. I will not say. I enjoyed Pietro from Age of Ultron. I enjoyed his character arc that he had. I like I liked his witty banter that he had whenever he knocked Hawkeye on his butt, and he's like, "You didn't see that coming?" I did like that. I thought that was funny. But the Evan Peters Quicksilver, I gotta admit, I'm a little bit more partial to that one there. Mainly because he didn't get killed off in one movie. Shame on you guys. I know y'all had a reason for it, but still, that's a jerk move. But with the Evan Peters Quicksilver, he rescued Magneto. He did that dope scene in the kitchen of the Pentagon. That was funny. It was so cool. And the way he did it with the Walkman, and he was just cruising around, I thought that was great. Time in a Bottle, I think, was the name of the song playing. But that was cool. To have that scene take place to where it showed his abilities. It showed his power, where he like poked in on the cheek, and then the poke happened and the indentation stayed. So whenever the person, whenever it was done and he stopped running and everything, and everything resumed normality, it was the craziness. And I love that. That was cool. And then the other thing from the Evan Peters Quicksilver that I loved is I loved when he went into the mansion as the mansion's exploding and saves everybody. And it just, the way he's throwing people out the windows and everything else, I thought that was too funny the way they did that. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. 100% enjoyed Evan Peters as Quicksilver. He came back and he had the same, he was the same. You could tell that he was the same until Monica Rambeau gets back inside. Well, when she gets back inside, she goes back into the Hex after the Hex has been enlarged because Vision was dying. And it was brought to Wanda's attention that Vision was dying by one of the twins. I gotta say, the way it all played out with Monica going in, she genuinely wanted to help Wanda. Genuinely, you could tell that. And she was genuinely trying to help Wanda. I think that there's still more to come with Monica Rambeau. I'm hoping for good things to be seen from that. I'm really looking forward to that, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to it. So with her being a part of helping Wanda, and then the military trying to attack, that was their ultimate plan. They wanted to attack to stop Wanda. And then you have Agatha, who finally reveals herself, because when Monica comes in, she's trying to talk to Wanda. She goes straight to Wanda's house after getting through the perimeter of the Hex, and she didn't get changed like she did in the past, and then other people who have entered got changed. I mean, when Wanda expanded the Hex, it turned the entire military encampment of Sword, it turned it into a carnival or a circus. I mean, it was the craziest thing in the world. It turned all their military equipment into circus vehicles. Their structures got turned into circus tents. It was just the funniest thing in the world. So for that to happen and how it happened, but then for Monica to get back in there and she forced her way back in through the barrier, and then she was able to basically collectively keep it together to where she didn't turn and get basically mind controlled. For her to be able to just run in there and get to Wanda as herself, then all of a sudden, then this is when you start to feel, you start to see it, and you're like, the game is afoot with Agatha Harkness. We know she's fitting to be bad because you can feel it. It's in the air because she comes over, she tells Monica, you need to leave, and then she grabs Wanda and says, come with me, dear. Takes her in the house, asks her would she like some tea and everything. Wanda sees a bunny in a cage. She starts seeing the kids' drinks and a cartoon on TV, but she doesn't see the boys. And then she asks Agatha, where are the boys? And Agatha goes, they're probably playing in the basement. Wanda's curiosity gets the better of her. She goes down into the basement, and at first it's a kind of normal basement, but then she starts going down this hallway, and I'm like, oh, dude, that is so cool. I wish I had a basement like that. That basement looks rad. And then she goes into this room where it's big arches. I mean, the whole basement has been bewitched. You can see this. And it was just the coolest looking basement ever. And then all of a sudden, Agatha comes in. And that's when we find out that Agatha was helping to steer direction, so to speak. But Agatha has an ulterior motive. Agatha, honestly, it turned into a scene. I'm just going to say it. It turned into a scene straight up out of the Covenant, man. Like, Agatha wanted Wanda's power because she felt Wanda was unworthy. And for Agatha to want that power so bad that she brought Wanda into her dungeon. And she had runes, Agatha did, that basically prohibited Wanda from using her powers. I'm like, well, this is interesting. So then we go on the ride. And the ride was way cooler than anybody would have thought, especially me, because I had no idea that they were going to do this. Now, they went back to Sokovia before her parents were killed, before everything happened. And they're sitting there, and this kind of shows you where the beginning of the show was at. It shows you why it turned into a 50s sitcom, because her favorite episode of whatever was Dick Van Dyke's season 2, episode 21. That's a weird thing to remember specifically, but I did. Her affinity towards sitcoms really showed why the beginning of the week for her was a sitcom. That's why she did it that way. And then we start to find out that, because Agatha was like, how did you do this? How did you create this whole hex? How did you take over all these people? How are you controlling this, that, and the other? And Wanda's like, I don't know. I honestly don't know how I did this. She honestly didn't know. Well, she didn't know. And English is fundamental there, James. Come on, give it a program. But she didn't know how she did it. So she sits there and she is walking through the story of her life. Basically, it's like, Wanda, this is your life. And I thought that was very neat. And then obviously she's watching the show with her family, and then boom, everything just explodes. And her and Pietro are still alive. They crawl under a bed where they see a Stark Industries bomb land near them, and you see this light blinking and it's beeping. And that's when Agatha basically realizes that Wanda's abilities were natural, not, not something that was given to her by an Infinity Stone. We'll get to the Infinity Stone in a moment, but Agatha realized this, and that's when she explained to Wanda that Wanda was controlling the bomb by just, she basically said a spell without saying a spell. I mean, she said that by the time this episode's over, we'll realize everything is okay. It was all a dream. And that's what the spell was that she cast onto the bomb to keep it from exploding. So that happened. And then we fast forward to when her and Pietro joined Hydra. And it wasn't really that they joined Hydra. They weren't misguided. They wanted to help. And obviously Hydra was very misguided on that deal. But when they put her into the room with Loki's scepter and she walks towards it, and then basically it just infused her with all kinds of power. That is when Agatha realized, okay, so an Infinity Stone helped you and basically jacked your power straight up. And then they move on to the Avengers compound, where it was kind of her first solo interaction with Vision. And they're talking. Vision's wanting to understand and help if he can. Obviously he can't. He's a synthezoid with the mind of Jarvis, which he referenced that actually during the show. He referenced that he was a consciousness without a body, and then he was a consciousness with a body. So that was actually referenced a couple of times. So I thought that was very interesting. And a nice tip of the cap to, Iron Man fans on that exchange, with it being, yeah, we know you're Jarvis. We call you Vision out of jest, but you're Jarvis. Sorry. I've always, Jarvis was my favorite AI. I like Friday. I like the way Friday handled things. I liked it a lot. But Jarvis's wit was like, he just didn't care. Like, yeah, he was just straight up, like the straightforward. He was the butler. He really was. Friday was like, she was a little bit sassier, but I enjoyed Jarvis. I really did. But when they have the moment of her and Vision at the Avengers compound after the Battle of Sokovia, and she's explaining what it felt like to lose Pietro. Then after that happens, it shows the empty room, and then another door opens and it takes you to Sword headquarters. Wanda goes there and she could level the whole place if she wanted to, but she showed massive restraint, and good on her for doing that. And then she goes and meets the new director of Sword. And once she meets the new director of Sword, she looks out a window, and down below she sees a group of scientists, we'll call them, ish. Can't call them doctors because, well, She starts seeing what they're doing, and they're cutting Vision up. They're dissecting him, basically. And she busts the window out, and she flies down, all Scarlet Witchy-like. And she puts her hand over his head where the Mind Stone would be at. And once she puts her hand over that, she's moving her fingers, and she says, "I can't feel you." And that's when she knows he's gone. And the whole thing was alluded to, that Vision's body was taken and blah, 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 earlier on by the director of Sword. And it just, it was one of those things where that was a sad moment to see Vision laying on a table, and it's still got the hole in his head from where Thanos ripped out the Mind Stone. I mean, it just, oh man, it was just rough. I mean, especially because it brought back all the memories of, Infinity War and Endgame by proxy. But once she leaves that area, Agatha then realizes at that point that a lot of what happened through the traumatization of her losing her parents, her brother, and her love. I mean, that, imagine for those of us who have someone we care for deeply, a wife, a brother, a sister. If you lost that person, and you were close to this day, and you're close, if you lost that person unexpectedly, it could possibly break you, especially if it happened, you lose your parents, you lose your brother, and then all of a sudden you lose your spouse. I mean, it happens in 1, 2, 3, boom, and then you're just at that point like, wow, why? So yeah, I mean, you can get where she's at with it. Well, she leaves Sword headquarters and she goes to I forget what the place is called, but it's in New Jersey. Golly. So anyhow, she goes there, and the house that we've seen throughout the entire series, the house is nothing but a foundation. Like, it's an old foundation, like the house was demolished or something. She walks into the middle of it, she opens the map up, and she sees a heart in the middle of that spot. And then that's when she just drops to her knees and basically just breaks. And that's when she creates the house, and then she throws the enchantment around the entire town, takes over the whole thing, and then that's when you see the show pretty much start. It kind of circles back to the beginning. That's how she started this. And so it's very interesting, and I would love to know the timeline of how it all played out, as far as how far after Endgame was this? I mean, is this a few days after Endgame when all this started? Is this, it had to be a couple of years, because in the final battle, after it goes to the creation of the house and everything like that, and then Agatha's like, I want you to give me your power. You can stay in this hex. I'll fix it. I'll make it right. And then you just give me your power, and we'll call it square. And Scarlet Witch is like, no, these are mine. I'm not giving this to you. So for the battle to take place the way it did, they start fighting, and they get outside, and Agatha's got both her kids. And when she's got both the boys, Wanda hits her with a spell, frees the boys, and then her and Agatha, they start going at it. After Wanda is called the Scarlet Witch, basically using chaos magic and all that good stuff. So once everything starts, then you see a White Vision show up. Now, White Vision showing up, I knew it was going to happen because I had seen other previews. I had seen reviews on WandaVision. So mine's late. Yes, I know I'm late to the WandaVision party. I do apologize. Sorry. I wanted something to do. So White Vision shows up, and when White Vision shows up and he's there with Wanda, he's standing there and he's talking to her like Vision would. And she's like, Vision? And then he starts squeezing her head. And then all of a sudden, her Vision, the fake Vision, he flies through, knocks White Vision out of the way, gets him off Wanda, and then he and White Vision start fighting. Well, it's kind of like, what do you do when you fight yourself? Then we find out that White Vision was made by Sword. He was basically reverse engineered off of Vision. And then, since he was reverse engineered off of Vision, Vision knew it, at a certain point, Vision knew he could kind of rationalize with himself. And he sits there and he goes, "What is your objective?" And White Vision says, "My objective is to kill you, Vision." And that's when Vision goes, "But I'm not really Vision." And they have a nice philosophical debate back and forth where Vision's explaining to White Vision that if you have a ship, and I forget the guy's name, but if it's his ship and it's sitting on display and you start changing boards, how long before that's no longer his ship? So it was one of those things where, yeah, I mean, Vision basically is like, "Look, I'm a creation here. I'm a facsimile of the real Vision." And then, but you can tell he has powers. So his powers are his normal powers. So he touches the White Vision and basically unlocks all the memories. At that point, White Vision goes, "I am Vision," and flies off. So theoretically, Vision's back. Theoretically, he's back in the MCU, which is cool because we know he was created, and he's got a lot of the same personality traits, and most likely he's going to go find himself and develop his own quirks, and he'll be back to being Vision. He won't be the exact same Vision, but he will be Vision. So then, after that fight took place, then you have the final battle between Agatha and Wanda. Wanda's flying through. I mean, obviously the town tried to attack Wanda, and it was one of those things where it was all perpetrated by Agatha, where the town tried to attack her. And finally, Wanda tells Agatha, "Okay, fine, you want my power? Cool, here you go, I'll give it to you." So she starts giving out her power and whatnot through casting different spells. But at the same time, she's purposely missing. And Agatha thinks it is purposely missing. You know, Agatha thinks that she's missing because of uncoordinated and unskilled. Well, we eventually find out that Wanda's casting runes of her own inside the hex. And once she casts those runes, it strips Agatha of all of her power. And then it gets great because then they both come back down. And Wanda tells Agatha, "Hey, you wanted to be the nosy neighbor in my creation? I got you, chick." Makes her the straight up nosy neighbor and pretty much wipes her memory of everything at that point. You know, puts a block on her to where she can't do anything except be the nosy neighbor. And she's like, "You can stay here. It'll be safe for you here. And besides," and Agatha's like, you know, before she's turned into the nosy neighbor, she's like, "But you're gonna need me." And then Wanda's like, "Yeah, and I'll know right where to find you." So that's how that ended. And then, of course, it goes back to, it shows Wanda and Vision and the boys. They reunited. The FBI agent, he's there. He's in control on scene. Apparently, the director of Sword, he was trapped inside a Humvee thanks to old girl from drew a blank on her name again. Anyhow, the woman from Thor: The Dark World, Darcy. I don't know why in the world I keep wanting to draw a blank on her name. Anyhow, so then you have Wanda and Vision saying, "Let's go home." Obviously, you saw the line where they're like, you know, "This is our home. Let's fight for it." But, you know, that was at the beginning of the battle with everything happening. And then it shows Wanda and Vision tucking the boys into bed. Then they leave the room. The boys fall asleep. And the hex, you can see out the window, the hex is collapsing back in on itself. And as the hex gets closer to the house, Wanda is then, she's talking to Vision, and Vision tells her and she tells him that, she'll miss him, and Vision's like, you will see me again. I've been a faceless voice. I've had this. I've been dead. I'll be back. But Vision's like, I'll be back. Like, I'm the Terminator. You can't kill me. And then obviously everything in, I think it's Midvale or Westvale. I think it's Westvale is the name of the town. The whole town turns back to normal. Wanda then takes her house that she was in, that she created, the house is back the way it was earlier in the episode when we first saw her come into Westvale. And then she's walking through the streets. She drove there in a car, and I'm guessing it's because she threw the car, but couldn't she have fixed that? Anyhow, she's walking down the street into the main part of town, and she sees Monica Rambeau. And once she sees Monica Rambeau, it's a thing where she's like, I'm going to go figure this out. I'm going to figure me out. And she went way far away. Obviously, we find this out later on, but she goes far away. And then that's when another, what looks like FBI or operative. I'll use the word operative because I don't know if they're SWORD or if they're FBI, but they look official. They really look official. So they come up to Monica and they're like, yes, you're needed in the theater. And she walks into the theater, and that's when you see that this person is a Skrull. Now, mind you, this is in the mid-credits scene, but it kind of rolls itself from Wanda leaving and flying off from in front of Monica. So, Monica! So then she's okay. And the Skrull points up, and we're like, alrighty then. So that's where we're at. And then the post-credit scene is very, very interesting. The post-credit scene shows Wanda sitting on the steps of a cabin, very secluded. Ain't a thing in the world around. And then Wanda gets up. She hears a tea kettle whistling. So she gets up. You hear the tea kettle be removed because the whistling stops. But then you see Wanda sitting in a dimension similar, a state like Doctor Strange was when he was going through all the infinite possibilities of how to beat Thanos. So, and that's how it ends. And from what I've gathered through just research and learning is that apparently she wants to bring her boys back. Well, that's going to be kind of interesting seeing how her boys were created by a facsimile. So how does that even work, But anyhow, we'll deal with that as Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness comes out. I will definitely say WandaVision earns, as a series, as a complete series, start to finish, WandaVision earns top marks from me. I cannot speak enough good things of it. If you've been on the fence about getting Disney Plus, not a plug for Disney Plus, not being sponsored by Disney Plus, I'm just putting it out there because that's where it's at. If you've been on the fence about getting it, get it. Watch this series. It's like watching a movie. I mean, honestly, it would not hurt my feelings one bit if they sat there and they did away with the last time on WandaVision, and just connected all the episodes, boom, 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 linked them all together, and then threw them up as a long movie. I would be like, yes, please. That was very good. It was very enjoyable. I thought it was, honestly, I'm going to say it, as far as series go, to me, considering it was a single series, and I'm almost certain, don't hold me to it, but I'm almost certain that it's going to be, that's it. It's one series and done. Or one season and done. I don't think it's going to do another season. Not for lack of, honestly, not for it being bad. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it being just one season because they told the story they had to tell. This is one of those few instances where I'm like, great show, only getting one season is stupid. This is one of the few exceptions to that. And the reason why it's an exception is because, honestly, it was a great series. I loved it. It did exactly what it had to do. It told the story of 5 days in Wanda's life. And it was perfect. It was perfect the way it ended. It ended nicely with the lead into her becoming the Scarlet Witch and having chaos magic and knowing she's going to be a part of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So yes, I'm going to have to give this a 9 out of 10. I mean, it was for all intents and purposes, it was perfect. I mean, I love the entire series, whatever we're going to call it. I love the movie, the WandaVision movie. The WandaVision movie. I love it. It's perfect. So, I am James, XG Wolverine. You guys, I'm hoping y'all like these deals. I really am. Please, if you do like them, don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Leave comments, yo. I mean, how hard is it? Leave me a comment. I have such a small audience. You people should be more loyal than leave comments. I mean, a way to let me know if I should keep doing these and putting the energy in, or if I should just go back to being a TV watcher and just watch TV and not worry about telling y'all my thoughts. Or y'all just don't care about my thoughts, one way or the other. Either way. I mean, this is the XG Wolverine show. I mean, it's bound to be one of a multitude of things. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'm gonna start on Falcon and Winter Soldier next. I'll probably just do it the way I did WandaVision. I'll probably honestly just go ahead and do it, watch the entire series, and then just come back and give the cliff notes. So, if you guys want to see something different, if you want to see me do an episode by episode breakdown, then let me know in the comments. If you don't care what I do, then don't comment, I guess. Think What If episode 4 drops today. This is Wednesday, the 1st of September. So I will go ahead and be watching that here in a bit. And then I'll be doing my review of What If episode 4. So we're going to have some content this week. We got Shang-Chi this weekend. Go figure. I might dig up that Eternals trailer and we'll give that a look. I probably should at least. So, that being said, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you guys know, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, beat that notification bell upside the head. Let you know when I put something new out. We might even try to go do some stuff outside of just movie and stream reviews, otherwise known as gaming, because I've heard that there's possibly going to be a new truck release for ATS, so we may have to give that a look. Also, Wyoming's coming next week, so I know we got to give that a look. Thanks for watching. I'll catch y'all later. Y'all are awesome.